Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Total Biscuit, and I'm here to answer one very important question. WTF is a motif? No, just kidding. It's me, Kienan Lafferty, with a beard. So I'm a little bit more like Total Biscuit, but today is the KNKL Show, episode 309. And today we are going to be focusing on learning about motifs. And what the heck is a motif? I didn't know what a motif was, even after I became a professional artist. And that is why I'm going to teach you guys today. A lot of you probably know what it is, but I'm dumb, so I'm going to teach you guys today. And most importantly, how we can not only learn what a motif is, but how we can apply it to our work. And just as a little bit of a teaser, it's going to involve a flower, a tractor, and this awesome picture of yogurt, courtesy of Google.com. But before we get into that, we got to take a stroll down a very special place, and that is, of course, the lovely Lane people. So journey with me to tinyurl/KNKL fanart and click on this cryptic link right here and be ready to be dazzled as I turn off my external hard drive so that it doesn't buzz in your face. And be dazzled by this amazing art. Ooh, like that Samus Aran, by the way. If you have not yet joined us on the Facebook, then be sure to go to the link, like the page, submit your art, and then you could be focused on, or rather featured on, the next week's show. So get over there, people. Get on over there. Like that Mika too, by the way. You guys are doing so many cool Mika arts. I'm loving it. And you guys are putting all the cool stuff that I'm teaching you into practice. Oh man, you guys are doing great. All right, guys, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. And what the heck are we talking about? I mean, we're learning about motifs. We have tractors, flowers. Where's my stylus? Seriously, where did it go? Okay, well, I have this one. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. So, we're learning about tractors, flowers, and yogurts. And yogurt dishes, okay? And what we're going to be doing today is we're learning about shapes, okay? Because what is a motif? It is nothing more than shapes. It is a shape, a design that is going to be repeating in your work. So a lot of people will draw things like this, be like, okay, well, let's create maybe it'll be like a diamond, right? Because people like diamonds, and then maybe it's like this thing. I don't know. It's like you just create a design. This is a motif, generally, okay? But the problem with this is that, well, there's not necessarily a problem, but I feel the best motifs come from real life, including organic objects, but also it can be man-made objects. And what you're looking for is interesting mixtures of large, mediums, and smalls, right? We've talked about this principle in the days past, okay? And that is this technique, where you basically have a medium, a small, and a large. And when you have this thing going on, it pleases you. It pleases you to look at it, okay? So you can basically create any shape, right? And then you divide it into a large, a medium, and small, right? This is what you would call a pleasurable motif, right? Or the beginnings of one. And that's just a general rule, okay? But today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at pictures, photos, to give us new ideas. And then from that, we're going to develop our own character. Develop a cool concept from these motifs. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about that. So let's get started with the tractor. So let's go ahead and see if we can find a shape. And just for your reference, I highly recommend, you can just go on Google and just look up pictures, but the bigger, the more high-res the picture, the better, because you're going to want to get in there. You want to look really closely, and you want to start pulling out shapes like, say, this little starting mechanism. I don't know what this is, but it's part of the tractor, and it looks like this, right? So maybe something like this can create an idea for you. So go ahead and grab that shape, boom, move it over to the side. We can use that for later, okay? Let's go ahead and grab another shape. Grab another shape in here. Ooh, these tires looked really cool. I was looking at these immediately. And that is like this shape right here, and this little T shape. This is cool. I like this a lot. All right, and then like this right here. And I actually really like all these little shapes that are happening. So I'm just gonna grab this entire motif, or this entire collection of shapes, and then we can turn that into another motif later if we'd like. Okay? I'm gonna draw this little T in too. There we go. Cool. So now we have that shape. So if you notice, I'm tracing ideas, I'm tracing shapes, and I'm just pulling them over to the side. And these are going to give us references. And notice how, okay, so let me go ahead and combine these really quick. And let me demonstrate this principle. Darken these down. And let's turn them a little bit more of a pleasing color to us, and let's move it down. Okay, so similar to the motifs that we created before, now look at that. We've got shapes. And notice how, if you look closely, you can pick out the large, medium, and small shapes. Okay? Look, we've got like a medium shape right here. And then we've got like a small little shape right there. And then mediums. And this is like a large shape. Like this entire thing is like a large shape. So it's just an interesting mixture of shapes that we're going for. Okay? So that's enough from the tractor. Let's move on to the flower. Okay? Now this is a good example for, say, you're creating a character that is based off of plants, right? Like a plant race. In fact, I was working with one of my students. He was developing a plant race. And I told him that a lot of people, you know, say you didn't have this photo and you wanted to just start designing a plant race. Well, what would you do? Okay, well, you'd say, well, it's obviously going to be like a person, so let's draw like a person's head, right? Let's draw like a person like this. Okay, but they're going to be like a plant person, so maybe they should have like a flower on their head, okay? And then this is usually where most people start going, right? Well, I mean, not most people, but they just start like throwing in petals and just kind of like things that are the first thing that you think about when you think about plants, right? It's like, oh, well, maybe he'll have leaves on his shoulders, right? And then, before your very eyes, you have an amazing plant person. Look at that. Okay, so not that there's anything wrong with the flower on the head, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that. But we want to have something a little bit more creative. We want to delve a little bit deeper. So this is where getting a large photo or a high-res photo is really going to come to your rescue. Because you're going to look closely and you're going to notice that, oh, okay, there's not just these petals here, not just these large petal shapes, but also right in here, look at all these little, there's like little tiny frills, like all these little tiny shapes. And then look at these things. There's like a large, or like a little like teardrop shape and then a little tiny shape inside, right? So you got something like this. Ooh, in fact, that one right there, I like this shape right here. So let's go ahead and take that. But rather than dragging it over, I want to take that and translate it for myself, okay? So that is basically like a petal shape. Whoop. So let's go ahead and draw that petal shape. And then from that, there's like a little kind of shape that comes out right here. And then there's another one kind of on the top, okay? Cool, so that's like a cool start. Cool start for like a design or something that we could maybe turn into something later. So let's go ahead and hang on to that. And I like that. Notice how, look at that, large petal. Are you picking up on this now? Large petal, medium shape, small petal. Okay, and that's a good start. Okay, and then look at that. We have all these little tiny guys in here. All these little tiny, I don't know what you'd call these, seeds or something. But they're in there. So let's go ahead and keep that in mind as we go forward. Okay, now for my personal favorite, the bowl of yogurt. Now this is something that is truly amazing, truly outrageous, okay? We're going to, in fact, I want to also kind of have a couple of these. Actually, no, never mind. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. Okay, let's go to the bowl of yogurt. Okay, so this one is really fun because this is truly like random, okay? There's no real, it's not like a flower. It doesn't have like a set design that it's going to build off of. But let's zoom in on this yogurt, okay? And let's try to find something. Let's try to find an interesting shape. Okay, well, I'm seeing something right here. I'm seeing something right here, but it's not working. It's not actually drawing. There we go. Okay, so I'm seeing something here. So let's go ahead and start with this shape. Oh, interesting. Maybe something like here. Maybe something like that. Let's go ahead and grab a little bit of these shapes. This is what I was gravitating towards from the very beginning. Okay. So see how I'm just kind of like tracing along lines, right? Trying to find something, just trying to jog my imagination. And oh, I really like this one. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and move this over. We're gonna save these. That's cool. We're gonna grab this one right here. I really like this shape right here. I'm sure you guys saw me going for this. And I'm just gonna kind of draw on top of this, just kind of build off of this. I like that, okay? Cool. So there's some shape relationships, motifs, if you will, that now we can take into our drawing. Got the hard stuff out of the way. Okay, so now we can take off those photos before the owner of them contacts me and tells me to take down this episode. Let's go ahead and take those off really quick so it doesn't show up in the thumbnail. And let's go ahead and design a character off of these. Okay, so let's go ahead and merge all of these. we're gonna move these up to the side, okay? And we're gonna take this plant guy and we're gonna shrink him down a lot. Because that's our idea of what we don't want to do, okay? Now, let's take these motifs and let's begin designing, okay? So we have some cool, really cool, different design, really cool, different motifs, okay? Because the yogurt has a lot of things like this. We have things like this. The flower has a lot of things like this, right? Lots of things happening that are very round. And then the tractor, look at that, has a lot of things that are squared off. Now, can we put these all together? Can we put these all together and make something interesting? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out, okay? So let's go ahead and begin designing. Let's go ahead and begin designing. So I'm going to start with this shape up here, this one that we really liked. I'm going to start with this. What can that be? It could be anything, technically. But I personally want to create it. I want to make it part of this creature's back, right? And I say creature, it's going to be some sort of a humanoid, right? So maybe it'll have something like this. Maybe this thing that hangs down is sort of like a cape, or something like that. Maybe something hangs down a little bit further. Okay, so we're gonna have something like this. Now let's go ahead and grab a little bit of that mechanical motif. Okay, so I'm talking up here. Okay, we're gonna grab a little bit of that. So we have like a circle right here, and then we have, and I'm thinking like 3D with this now. See how I'm taking that design and I'm turning it 3D? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Then for the head, let's go ahead and build it off of, ooh, I like this shape over here. This is interesting. Let's go ahead and build that. Okay, so we're gonna have this soft shape right here. And then we're gonna have like sort of like this face plate right here. So he's gonna turn into some sort of like a mantis looking creature thing. Maybe these are like his wings, right? Maybe he's a robotic praying mantis person. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and run with that. Let's go ahead and draw the torso down, okay? And notice how I didn't draw this. I'm not designing a character like this, right? Where I'm drawing like the head, and then it's like, oh, here's the torso, and then like that. And then we're gonna begin like building the armor off of that, right? You can do this, but the reason why I started with this angle is to show you that you don't always have to start from face on. You can draw this from any angle. You can take any motif and draw it from any angle. This is just to get your mind going, just to get your mind going. Think of things that you never would have thought before. Combining ideas, combining shapes that you never would have thought of before, okay? And that is how concept artists work. And you might also be noticing that this is really messy. Now, this is okay. This is okay because your sketches and stuff are not gonna be pretty. They're not gonna be pretty. In fact, you're gonna have some bad ideas. You're gonna have some bad ideas. But the point is that you need to hit your, what the heck is going on? Why can't I select the brush? There we go, okay. But the point is, you're gonna wrestle with Photoshop, you're gonna wrestle with your drawing. You're not gonna know exactly what you're doing half the time. But what you're trying to do here is you're trying to just come up with ideas, okay? Because all you need, keep this in mind, is that you only need one idea to make it all the way. You only need one idea to make it all the way, okay? So feel free to get your bad ideas out of the way first, okay? So I'm just drawing, having some fun here. Oh, okay, so I really like these motifs over here. In fact, I want to take all these motifs and I want to color them a separate color, so that way we can easily see them. Okay, motifs, there we go. So now I'm looking at this guy right here, that one right there. I'm gonna translate that over to the leg because that I feel just goes really well with our praying mantis looking guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that. Cool. Very good, very good. Okay, and we gotta remember that this is also going to be a robotic looking guy, robotic. So we need to fit some of these motifs, some of these robotic motifs back in there. Oh, look at that. Look at that, okay? So we're starting with this. Ooh, I like that a lot. Ooh, that's cool. That is cool. Okay, so guys, take a look at this. This is a good example of when you're gonna start noticing that you're on the right track, okay? Because this is what I really want to point out. You might draw this entire body and you're like, I don't know if it's really going the right way. But just continue with it. Because then eventually you're going to do something that you're going to like, right? Even if it's just a small detail on the head. So let's go ahead and run with this. Because I feel like this is a very good start. This is a very good start. We're starting to get some relationships in here that I really like. Okay. And then you could take this, theoretically, just because you started it as a praying mantis person, doesn't mean you have to take it all the way. It doesn't mean it has to be a praying mantis person. Maybe this could be a design for a bike helmet, right, on one of your characters from your comic, right? It could go anywhere. But you want to be sort of like free drawing. You want to think of it as free drawing. Look, even like stuff like this, like these little shapes in here. See that little triangle shape, how it just kind of blends in right there? That looks really nice. And this goes back to there. See, so look at that. Now we have a nice mixture of shapes. We have a really, really nice mixture of shapes. And we like that. We like that very much. Okay. So as far as the back of the head, I don't really know what I'm going to do with it right now. I just like the way it looks right there. Just going to roll with that. Okay, so look at that. That could be the beginning of a cool idea, right? And we got to it by getting our ideas out, getting stuff onto the canvas. Now, this is another good example or a good exercise for those of you who come to me and say, Kienan, I just feel like I get so wrapped up. I get so wrapped up in looking at the blank canvas, I just don't know where to start. Start with a bowl of yogurt. Start with a tractor. Start with a flower, you know? Start with anything. Start with the fur. Take your iPhone and take a close-up shot of the fur on your dog, and then you might be interested at the patterns that you might see in that, the lines that kind of come together. You can literally take a picture of anything. Another good one is, say you have like some sort of texture on your walls or on your ceiling. Take a picture of that and then look for little patterns in there. Okay? So, that is a good start. That's a cool idea right there. Now, we're not going to use really any of the other parts of the body necessarily. I just really like that head. But let's go ahead and take that and let's move on. Let's move on and let's do a new character. Let's do a new character. Okay? So, I'm going to save him right there. And let's get started on a new guy. I actually really liked how I was sketching with like the lighter blue first. Totally going to do that again. Totally going to do that again. Okay, so again, I really like this motif here. Like this, like almost like a horn. I almost see this horn right here. And then I want to build just a face off of this. I want to build a face off of this shape. Okay? So maybe it's going to look something like this. This is my personal favorite thing to do. I always love taking the shapes and then building the heads. I don't know why, but I feel like when you design the face of a character, it really helps to inform the rest of it. Okay, so you might have something like this. And let's see if we can make this a female, right? This looks more like a scary kind of creature-looking male. Let's see if we can make this one look a little bit more attractive, if we will. If you will. Okay, so let's start with something like this. And see how I'm just kind of like throwing lines in there and I'm just kind of having fun with it? That's what I want you guys to be doing. That's what I want you guys to be doing. Okay, cool. A little bit more pleasing to the eye. Let's see if we can create that here. Create that here today. All right, cool. I'm always a fan of like the big under eyelashes. I always do that. So let's go ahead and do that here. This face is looking a little bit freaky. Ooh, I have an idea. Let's connect this nose. Maybe right there. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Maybe they got these big like eyelashes, maybe something like that. Cool. Okay, and then the shoulders can come down like this. Let's go ahead and pull another one of our motifs in here. I'm going to pull in this one right there. I'm going to try that on the shoulder. look at that. And then maybe this is like a carapace that kind of goes up like this. See, look at that. Kind of coming up with ideas. And pay very close attention to still how loose this is. Okay, guys? I want you to get loose with it. Get loose with it, please. Because you can always refine. You can always change this stuff up later. I really like this eye, but I feel like it needs to move down a little bit. So let's use the magic of our lasso tool in Photoshop. Let's go ahead and move this down a little bit. Okay, we're going to go ahead and flip it. And see how this is giving you something like a new race. It's giving you like an idea for a new race. And it's not just a person with a flower on their head, but rather it's a person with a flower motif on their head. Isn't that awesome? And then your boss is going to look at you and be like, how do you come up with this stuff? And now you know. Now you know the secret. It's Google. Google and close-up shots on your iPhone. And I just love doing stuff like this. I really do. It's super fun. Super fun to come up with new ideas. All right, cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so that is looking pretty cool for right now. I'm going to go ahead and darken this little area right there. Darken this area right there. Maybe this has a little bit more. I like this little shape that's coming down right there. Cool. All right, new motif. Let's go ahead and pull in a little bit of that tractor. Let's pull in that U shape. The U shape with the T shape. Let's go ahead and pull that in. I like that. And then maybe that goes up the neck. And then you can always change that stuff up, right? Because you're like, oh, maybe these straight lines look a little bit off. I don't know about those straight lines going in there. Maybe they need to be softer, kind of like this motif over here. I'm going to go ahead and shrink this down. And then we will go ahead and refine this. Let me shrink this baby down. We'll refine it. And then I'm going to answer one of your questions. And then we're going to end today. But let's go ahead and, oh yeah, we need a little bit more of this yogurt motif. Kind of like those sharper edges, right? And I'm just taking like the general idea. Remember how we discussed the yogurt has these types of shapes, right? So I'm putting those in there. Putting those in there. Maybe something like this. Oh, that looks interesting. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Cool. And then that can be a good start for going down the rest of the body. Okay. Love it. Okay, let's go ahead and refine this. Let's go ahead and hit Control J. Let's get our darker color out. And let's begin refining. Oh yeah, they need like an eyebrow. Yeah, that would be cool. But maybe even the eyebrow could be a flower petal type looking thing. And then I really like this little petal that kind of hangs down. That looks cool. Like that. By the way, David, I hope you don't mind. I'm totally stealing what we talked about because it was such a cool lesson. I was like, I need to teach this to everybody. So yes, you guys can thank David. Be sure to thank David in the comments for the idea of drawing plant people. Plant people is a very fun thing to do. All right, cool. Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of bring this down. That looks good. And see how I'm just kind of building off of my old sketch? I'm just putting in little dark shapes wherever I think they need to be. Just darkening a couple areas. Maybe a little bit of this. Don't want to make the lips too crazy. Yeah, there we go. I like this little connection that kind of happens right there. That looks cool. Rolling with that. Okay, and then we got these cool little epaulets, these little shoulder pieces, and then the motif of that we took earlier. Rolling that in there. And before your very eyes, your piece begins to come together. Look at that. Interesting, no? Yeah, I like that. All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to go ahead and end today's show. We're going to end today's show, and we're going to move on to a little bit of questions. We're going to do some questions. In a second, hang on. I'm still having fun. And if you do this at home, you too will have fun. You too will have fun. So get on it. I want to see your awesome creations, right? I want to see plant people. I want to see tractor people. I want to see snowflake people. I want to see yogurt people. Okay? Get crazy with it. Have some fun. That looks cool. Alrighty. Yeah, I'm liking that. Gonna save that out. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a very special part of the show, and that is, of course, the question catapult. I shan't mute myself. I shan't. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and move on to our awesome question. This one is coming in from Maisei. Sorry if I totally butchered your name, by the way. Maisei is asking how to study art. Oh, great question. All right, so the gist of it is, hello, Kienan. Been drawing for a few months now. Still an amateur. I have a question about studying art. Should I focus on learning a certain skill, getting more comfortable with it? For example, gesture drawing, figure drawing, trying to make a full finished drawing. Let's see here. Mix different things in, value, color, anatomy, perspective. Yes, I know exactly where you're going with this, Maisei. And I am happy to answer this question because there is a lot that you can learn with art. And it can be a little bit daunting at times. You feel like, okay, so I have this idea. Trust me, there's nothing more frustrating than having an idea in your mind and you can see it, right? You can see it with such clarity, right? This amazing action sequence with this guy jumping out of an exploding building with a perfectly drawn in perspective car like chasing after him, right? And then also like the colors, the values, everything is just gonna work perfectly, right? But then you get in there and you can't even draw a stick figure, right? And trust me, I know where you're coming from. And you say to yourself, man, there's so much that I have to learn. Where do I start? Do I have to focus on one thing at a time, or should I learn them all at the same time? And my best advice to you, Maisei, is that you want to do what comes naturally. And you have to be okay with understanding that you're just going to fail sometimes. You're going to come up, and this is a good example of today. Drawing motifs and being a concept art is not about succeeding. It's about being a master of failing. It's about being a master of getting your crappy ideas out onto the canvas and then just coming out with one good thing, okay? And what I'm getting at with that is that start small. Start with just what you want to draw necessarily. Like you never want to go into a drawing thinking like, oh man, well I have to learn this, or like, oh man, I don't even know how to do this. I guess I got to read a book on it necessarily. But rather what you should do is you'll know when you're in the mentality to learn those things and pick up on those principles because it's going to feel so natural. You're going to be like, oh man, I'm so excited to just focus on learning. And this is your answer, right? Finally we got to the answer. And that is, yes, you should be focusing on one thing at a time. And it's going to come naturally because say you're going to be drawing that character or that scene. And you're going to say, okay, well, I need to learn how to draw buildings in perspective. I need to learn how to draw, just like use vanishing points, 1 to 2 vanishing points. Let me just do like an experimental drawing on that. And I'm actually going to enjoy doing that. And then as you're doing that, you might pick up a book on it and read all through the book. And it's going to happen so naturally. But stay away from feeling like, oh man, okay, so I need to learn perspective, I need to learn values, I need to learn color theory, I need to learn exposure, I need to learn all this. So you pick up a book on photos, right? On exposure, right? You pick up a book on perspective, you pick up a book on values and texture and all that stuff. And then you try to read through all of them. You're going to get so overwhelmed. okay? But rather, focus on one thing at a time, one thing at a time. Then you take that, put it into your tool belt, right? You're a handy construction worker. You just drop that into your tool belt. You move on to the next piece, right? And be okay with each of those subjects that you didn't study, right? Be okay with those not looking as good, because then on the next piece, you're going to take that perspective tool, you're going to move in, and then you're going to focus on a little bit more color theory. You're going to focus a little bit more on rendering textures. You're going to focus a little bit more on even just like anatomy, you know? It can be little simple things, and you're going to improve on all of those slowly, but I would definitely recommend focus on one thing at a time and do the thing that is the most natural, the thing that you really want to focus on, one thing at a time, and really focus on it. Okay, cool. So with that out of the way, let's talk about why I didn't release last week. And that is because I was on vacation, if you couldn't tell. I was in the jungle. Being chased by wildcats. I didn't have a chance to shave. That's why I have a beard. No, actually, I was just on vacation. I should have let you guys know. I'm sorry that I didn't let you guys know. No thing last week. I'm totally going to make it up to you, though. I will make it up to you, I promise. And yeah, thank you guys for being understanding about that. Hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you want to get today's PSD, if you want to take a look at all these layers for yourself, dissect the layers of mystery, and just go ahead and click right here. It'll take you over to Patreon, where you can download not only today's PSD, but all the other PSDs from the past. Lots of good stuff to learn. Thank you guys so much for watching the show, as well as supporting on Patreon, by the way. And speaking of Patreon, let's say thank you to our amazing sponsors. Laura Bashir, David Chiariello, Marvin Sale, Ilian the Cat, Megan Wynn, and Ian Crowell. And of course, my sponsors past. Thank you guys so much for keeping the lights running at night. The show would not be the same without you. All that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and say goodbye, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take off. We're going to go ahead and move on. I'm probably going to go shave. I also think I need a little bit of a haircut. It's getting a little crazy. Every day I've been waking up. I actually just decided to do today's show just as I woke up today, because I was like, man, it looks like so animated. It's so PC. It looks good. It's even got the little things that stick up in the top. You should have seen me yesterday. I literally woke up. I looked like Super Saiyan Goku, right? Minus the blonde hair. But it was like that perfect shape where I woke up and it was going to a perfect point. And it stayed like that as I walked around throughout the day. It's pretty awesome. So, yeah. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you guys so much for joining me on YouTube. Thumbs up if you like it. Thumbs down if you don't. My name is Kienan Lafferty. I'll see you guys soon. Maybe next week. Maybe have a surprise for you before next week. And until then, you guys take care. See ya.